broadcast for the State Library and Archive Service in Frankfort, for the Marshall County Libraries paid for by Shelby McCallum of WCBL AM/FM, and for the Pogue Library of Oral History at Murray State University. I'm Ray Mofield, and today we're visiting in the home of Mrs. Zula Brien, 102 West 9th Street here in Benton, and it's a pleasure to be in Mrs. Brien's home. Ms. Brien, would you mind if we start off and ask you how old you are?
I'll be 90 years old, 6th day of May.
Say, right about big singing time, you'll have a birthday.
That's right.
We'll have to sing for you.
That's right. If I'm a living.
Yes, well, we all have to put that qualifier in. Ms. Brien, could you tell us where you went to school?
I went to Pew Schoolhouse.
Now, about where was that?
Well, now, it is about 3 or 4 miles from Palma.
3 or 4 miles from Palma, all right. I don't think I've interviewed anyone before that had been to Pew School.
I went all my school days to Pew School.
Who were you before you married?
A butler.
A butler.
Butler.
Mm-hmm. Could you tell us about your father and mother, their names?
My mother's name was Martha Ann, and she was a Walker, a Roach, before she married. And my daddy was laying flat of his back on the bed with polio, couldn't move hand or foot when I was born. And I was born at Grandpa Roach's house up on the hill from where the airport is now.
At the Gilbertsville Airport?
The Gilbertsville Airport, at my Grandpa Roach's house.
Mm-hmm.
That is in 1893.
Well, that's goes back a good long ways, and your memory is great there. We're thankful for that. You know, a lot of genealogists like to listen to these tapes from time to time. And do you know any more? I've heard a little bit about the Brien family and about, the James Brien, who was state representative and created Marshall County with a bill that he introduced. Could you tell us a little more about your mother's side of the family?
Well, my mother had an awfully hard time because my daddy was down for several years and couldn't walk. But when he got to walking, he built him a little 2-roomed house close to Pew Schoolhouse. And there's where I was raised till I was grown. Then we moved out near Palma. But I married before I went to school. My school was out in January, and I married in the last day of, no, it's out in December, and I married the last day of January that year. I went to school to Homer Ford. I guess you know him.
Yes, I know Mr. Ford. In fact, I've interviewed him in this series, and he told me a number of things about teaching school and being the first basketball coach in the county, I think, at Calvert City, and a number of other things.
Then I went to school to Wiley Howard. You know him.
I don't believe I do. I know some Howards. Joe Bird Howard strikes.
Well, Joe Bird's daddy, I went to school to him.
Oh, well, good. We're getting some more names, and the more names, the merrier. Do you remember any other teachers you had?
I went to school to him one day. It wasn't too far from our house to the schoolhouse, and it was a bad day. And when I got there wasn't nobody but him. And he went ahead and we stayed all day by ourselves.
Just the two of you?
Just the two of us.
Well, I've heard of teachers unloading a load of hay just for one cow, and I guess that's that's a marvelous story. Now, there was a Howard's Grove somewhere in the county, wasn't there?
Yes, but I don't know where that was at.
All right. Could you tell us some of the things that you liked at school? The
Well,
things
I
you liked?
liked baseball. We played baseball.
Mm-hmm.
The boys and girls played together.
Yes. And were you a good batter?
I guess I was. I thought I was.
Well, that's fine. Any other games that you can think of, like, I guess you played dropping handkerchief.
Yeah, we played dropping handkerchiefs. We had a good time at school.
Wolf over the river?
No, I don't
I
remember,
remember that. Well, okay.
And I liked all my teachers except Miss Gillihan.
Didn't care for her.
No,
Was she too hard on you?
she's too hard and cross.
Didn't have a pleasant disposition,
No,
in your opinion?
did you know her?
No, I didn't know her, but we're glad to get your opinion of it, of course.
Of course, I had to go on to school anyhow.
Your parents made you go whether you liked it or not.
That's right.
Well, did you ever get a whipping?
Never did.
You must have been
Never
a lot.
did have to stay in but one time, and that is on the, the old fourth readers had definitions to the lessons.
I remember that, and I have a set of McGuffey's, which you might have been using.
I guess I was. And we missed it all. We didn't study that. The teacher made us take it over. So that's the only time I ever...
They didn't pass you when you didn't know it back then.
No, we had to know it.
Well, that's good. I think that was a better situation than we have today. Well, you mentioned a moment ago that you got married. After you got out of school and were a young lady, what kind of things did you do for recreation then? Did you have, say,
Play parties.
play parties? What was a play party like?
Well, we just all meet at some farmer's house and some of the neighbors, and we just play plays.
Was it something like a square dance?
Something, I guess, like it, but I never danced a set in my life.
Mhm.
We just get out on the floor and play.
Did you play Buffalo Gals, or
I don't remember.
don't remember the names of it?
No.
Did you sing any songs when you were?
Oh, yes, they'd sing the songs as they played,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't remember that.
All right. How old were you when you married?
I was 19.
19. Could you tell me how many children you had?
I had 6.
How many of those are living now?
5. I had 5. All of them's living,
Every one of them.
every one of them. I was wonderfully blessed.
Yes.
2 of them left for the Army the same day.
Uh-huh.
Then in about 2 months, the baby boy left.
Do you have any grandchildren?
Oh, I can't count them. I've got a house full.
Well,
My house don't hold them all.
well, that brings you a lot of pleasure now, I'm sure.
It sure does. I love them all.
Very good.
I've
All right.
got some fine grandsons,
When
granddaughters.
when you first started housekeeping, where did you live?
I lived over close to Pew Schoolhouse.
Was it on a farm?
On a farm's all I ever done.
Do you remember any of the crops you raised?
Tobacco.
Tobacco.
Tobacco and corn.
Yeah, so you,
I'd go to the field to help my daddy. He was crippled. And I'd take the a bucket and we'd put fertilizer in a spoon, and I had to drop the fertilizer in the squares. Then he'd come along and plow it over, and then we'd pat the hills. I helped him in all the crops that he made up until I married.
So they checked that off and plowed it both directions, didn't they?
That's right.
And you'd take a spoonful of fertilizer.
And drop to a hill. I had to be awful careful and drop just a spoonful.
I remember dropping. Old Black Joe was my dad's favorite fertilizer.
I don't know what kind of fertilizer that was, but
Yeah, well, you know what tobacco worms are then.
oh, I was afraid of them things. But I had to pull their heads off.
Sometimes they'd get as big around as your finger.
Oh, I know it.
The rascals would cluck at you and spit on you and all kinds
And
of
when
stuff.
we got to where we could have something to poison them and spray, well, we thought we was elected then.
Oh, yeah. The first spray was at Paris Green.
Yeah, Paris green mixed with the lime.
Put a little lime or flour or something in it
Yeah.
so it wouldn't burn the plant.
That's right.
I can remember that, too. And we got to where we thought we were pretty fancy. We'd put it in a little cloth bag and go along and just
Dusted on.
dust it on.
I've done that.
Hmm. Well, you didn't have to put tobacco in the barn. I guess the men did that part.
They done that.
But you had an awful hard job if on cutting day fixing dinner for everybody, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, I'd help hang the tobacco, and Mother would get the dinner.
You know, that's when you were a small girl. Now, what did your husband do? Was he a farmer also?
He was a farmer. He was in the insurance business when we married, but he didn't like it. And before the crops was housed, he sold his half of the insurance, and he went to farming altogether, and we farmed all of our life.
Mm-hmm.
I said if we didn't, in Hoover time, we'd have starved to death, because we raised everything we eat, and we had our meat and lard and our flour and cornmeal and everything, and I canned and dried stuff.
You dry apples, cut those off and put them up on the roof and let them
Dry.
dry.
And
When you,
peaches,
yeah.
we had a peach orchard and apples.
So you didn't get hungry, but you didn't have a whole lot of money.
No, we didn't. We gathered corn out of the field and sold it for a quarter of a bushel and put it in a man's barn.
Yeah.
Now, the people wouldn't do that this day and time.
No, I guess not. Some of them will hardly go pick up the free cheese. Will they? Yeah.
No, that's right.
Well, you talked about all you raised and everything and produced your own food, and did you ever quilt a quilt?
Yes, I've quilted quilts, pieced them and quilted them.
Sit around in the evening, instead of being idle, you were piecing quilts, and then
That's right.
would the neighbor women all come together and
Oh,
help one
yes,
another?
when we moved the last time out at Draytonville, why, the storekeeper had a big old house, and she saved a room especially for us women to quilt. And we'd all meet, and one would quilt a quilt, and another would quilt, and we'd quilt at night, and we had a good time.
Oh yeah, on quilting times, I can remember liking for that to happen because my mother would always let me pop corn, and we'd grow a few peanuts to eat
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
offer to company when
we'd
they
have
came.
peanuts and things to eat.
Sometimes Mother would take molasses and put the popcorn together and make popcorn balls.
I've done that a many times.
Oh, I thought that was paradise.
It was. It was back then.
Homemade Cracker Jacks. Well, I notice, Miss Zula, that you have a bar of lye soap here. Could you tell us how to make that stuff?
Well, I just say my grease, I just made that out of clear grease. And I'd save my old grease, and well, I got enough to make my batch of, if 1 can of lye, 2 cans, or 3. And I'd just put it all together and boil it till it's got thick.
You had a big black cast iron kettle out in the yard,
I did.
and you'd stack up some old wood around that, and about how long did it have to cook?
Oh, that didn't have to cook too long, not like old-timey.
When you had meat scraps in it,
It had to cook till that all eat up, you know.
Mhm.
But this you didn't. I'd have the clear grease to make these.
yes, that made it a lot easier.
Yeah.
And was lye soap good for cleaning? Did it do the job real well?
Yeah, done it real well. I had a lady from Paducah to come out to visit me, and she looked at it. I'd just cut it out. You know, we'd pour it that up in something and let it cool and then cut it out the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
And she come up there, and she was looking at it and praising her, of course, and she said, "Would you sell me some of that soap?" I said, "No, I won't sell it to you. I'll give you some of it." She said, "You don't know what I want with it." I said, "No, I don't." She said, "I want to wash my hair with it." Said it's the best soap in the world to wash your head with.
Well, I never thought of that. I remember Johnny Stanley doing a hit record about 1952, I think it was, called Grandma's Lye Soap. And he says in that song something about she washed his ears with it, and he hadn't heard a word in years. And, do you remember that song by any chance?
No.
It was a big hit in those days, and only people my age, I guess, would remember that. But, of course, I was a disc jockey at Paducah on a radio station then, and I played it a lot because I liked it. But I don't know that I ever washed my hair in it, and I was glad to get the tobacco gum off my arms and hands.
Oh, yeah. It was good for that. It was good for a lot of things. It'd get down and you do the work that you had to do.
That's right. It was, in a way, sort of like, today I guess they'd claim lava soap would be similar to it in a way. It's supposed to take off grease, but I never thought of it about being a hair soap.
I never did either. I never did wash my hair in lye soap, but this woman said it's the best she ever used.
I'm sure it would have gotten it clean. I just think it might have been a little harsh.
Might have been.
All right. Tell us some things about Saturdays. Did you have to go to town every Saturday, and what was?
Most every Saturday we went to town to get groceries.
Yeah. Oh, now you didn't buy a big grocery list like people do now. What did you have to have?
Well, I had to have sugar and coffee and things like that. I didn't have to buy no vegetables or things like that. I remember right well the first onions I ever had to buy. We all was pretty good hand for onions. So I went to Gilbertsville, and Mr. Provine was running this grocery store. And I said, "I want some onions." He said, "Yeah, that's fine." Said, "You eat an onion a day and it'll keep the doctor away."
Well, I'm not
I
sure.
never will forget that.
Why, of
Because I
course.
went to school to him, before I married.
Mhm.
And he was
So,
a good friend.
An onion's like an apple then.
Yeah.
Keeps the doctor away. Well, I'll have to remember that. I like the rascals. Could you tell us anything about how you got any money besides the tobacco crop. Did you sell a few eggs and?
Yes, I sold eggs and cream. I sold cream for several years.
You take that off every Saturday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I used to, boy, I thought when I grew up I wanted to be a cream tester. They'd put those test bottles in a little Babcock tester, and they'd turn a crank, spin that around, and I thought that was the greatest job in the world. I just imagined it would be.
Well, I never tested no cream, but I've saved a lot of it and taken it to town.
What about the churches and so on and that? Do you remember anything about any of the churches and who the preachers were and that?
Oh, yes. I can't think of their names right off. Brother Goff and Brother Richard Gregory. You remember them?
I remember Brother Goff, all right. Yeah.
Well, Brother Goff and Brother Richard Gregory.
Wasn't he also a veterinarian, too?
Yeah,
It seemed to me that he was.
I think so. And Brother Berg, he was just a visitor at our house nearly every week because of the boys, you know, and all the boys was at home then.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd come and, now talking about the soap, one day he come and they was all in a field of plowing. He went down there and they'd wrestle and waller in the dirt, and he come to the house. He wanted to take a bath. So I give him a bar of Lifebuoy soap. And he says, well, I just soon to smell myself as smell that soap. I told him it's all the soap I had, but I had lye soap, but it didn't offer him no lye soap.
No, afraid it'd take his skin off.
Yeah.
Well, I can remember Lifebuoy, and it did have somewhat of a pronounced odor to it.
Yes, it did.
But it was a good cleanser in many ways, and I've used a lot of it. Well, could you tell us anything about how you kept well in those days? Or what were some of the home remedies that you used? Did you give your children catnip tea?
Yes, I fed my babies catnip tea.
Now, what was that supposed to do?
Make them sleep.
Make them sleep. Well, that's a worthy objective, I guess, to keep them from crying. All right, what about some ladies have told me that they put acidity around their necks.
Well, I wore many a bag of acid around my neck when I was going to school. When I was little, I wore it until I got so big I was ashamed of it and I wouldn't wear it.
Now,
It had a terrible odor to it.
I remember a little bit about that, but was it just supposed to keep you from getting a cold, or?
I think so. I think it's just an old-time saying.
Mm-hmm.
But I've used a many bag of it.
When you cut your foot, stepped on a nail, what did you do?
Oh, put coal oil on it.
Okay. Coal oil or turpentine. That's
Yeah.
what my parents used to utilize like that. Well, could you tell us about the towns and around what they were like?
I never went to many towns.
You mentioned Gilbertsville. Now, how did it look in comparison to today?
Oh, my goodness. There wasn't many houses in Gilbertsville, and there was 3 or 4 stores. I've done forgotten how many. Miss Addie Chestnut was the main one, 'cause she ran a fuss with nearly everybody down there.
Was Palma much of a town back then?
a post office and 2 stores that I remember.
But that, of course, is much more. They don't have a post office anymore. So,
No,
so they one time did have a post office. How far up the river was it to Birmingham? Did you ever go there?
yes, I went there. We used to go there to mill. I don't know how far it was. It wasn't too far.
Benton was the county seat. Did you go to Benton very often?
Well, we'd go to Benton when we had to. 'Cause
Something
that's
about the courthouse.
That's a long ways to drive. I never was big singing day till after I married. They's always afraid there'd be a runaway and somebody hurt or something, and I didn't get to go.
Mm-hmm.
But the first year I was married, well, I went to the big singing.
You remember riding your first train?
Oh, yes, when I went to get married.
Where did you go to get married?
Paris, Tennessee.
So you got on the Nashville, Chattanooga, and St. Louis and headed through. You went through Hardin, didn't you?
Went through Hardin.
That's my hometown, is the reason I said that.
It's the coldest, windiest day you ever saw when we went to get married. We went in a buggy to Paducah and put up there and got a train, went to Paris.
Well, that must have been a popular spot. My mother and father were married in Paris, Tennessee in 1919. So I guess that was the typical place to go back then.
I guess so.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to say, Miss Brien? You know, this half an hour has just gone zip, zip. But
Well,
maybe you have something else you'd like to get on before we wind it up.
I don't know of anything. I've done forgotten nearly everything I ever knowed.
Well, you've remembered a lot. You must have known an awful lot at one time.
I
And
don't,
we thank you for what you have remembered for us and for the benefit of history and for the library in Frankfort and the libraries here in Marshall County and the Pogue Library at Murray State.
well, thank you.
This is Ray Mofield. We've been visiting today in the home of Miss Zula Brien at 102 West 9th Street in Benton, Kentucky. And that completes our broadcast for today.